Hi, good day, everybody. Today we're going to continue in our short devotional series on the prophet Jonah. I think that when we mention the name Jonah, what do we think of first? I think the first thought that comes to all of our minds is this great fish that was sent to swallow up Jonah. But actually, when we look at this, the book of Jonah, the prophet likes to use this word great on a few occasions in this book. We hear about a great fish. We hear about a great storm, and then we also hear about a great city. But actually, the book of Jonah is not about any of those great things. Ultimately, it's about a great God. So what I want to look at, what has happened so far, as Sean has shared with us on the beginning of this devotion. God called Jonah to go and preach against the sin of the people of the city of Nineveh. But Jonah disobeyed and went the opposite direction and ran away from the Lord to a city called Tarshish. He got onto a ship, and while on the sea, the Lord sent a great storm that almost broke the ship apart. All the sailors were afraid, and the Bible says each one of them cried to his own God. Where did they find Jonah? He was sleeping below the deck. So the captain came to him and asked him, "How can you be sleeping in this? Cry out to your God. Maybe he will take notice of us so that we will not all perish." So we're going to pick up the reading together in Jonah chapter 1 from verse 7 to 17. It says, "Then the sailors said to each other, 'Come, let us cast lots to find out who is responsible for this calamity.' They cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. So they asked him, 'Tell us, who is responsible for making all this trouble for us? What kind of work do you do? Where do you come from? What is your country? From what people are you?' He answered, 'I am a Hebrew, and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land.' This terrified them, and they asked, 'What have you done?' They knew he was running away from the Lord because he had already told them so. The sea was getting rougher and rougher, so they asked him, 'What should we do to you to make the sea calm down for us?' 'Pick me up and throw me into the sea,' he said, 'and it will become calm. I know that it is my fault that this great storm has come upon you.' Instead, the men tried their best to row back to land, but they could not, for the sea grew even wilder than before. Then they cried out to the Lord, 'Please, Lord, do not let us die for taking this man's life. Do not hold us accountable for killing an innocent man. For you, Lord, have done as you pleased.' Then they took Jonah, threw him overboard, and the raging sea grew calm. At this, the men greatly feared the Lord, and they offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made vows to him." You know, as we read this account today, I cannot help but to think of the state the world is in right now. I feel like the ship represents the world that we live in. It seems like it's breaking apart in the storm that we are all facing around us. There are many people all around us who are afraid and have no control of what's going on or how to make it stop. Just like these sailors. They were out at sea, they were experienced, but yet they had no way of stopping the storm or the ship and the possibility of it breaking apart. And so it says that each cried out to his own God. They threw the cargo into the sea to make the ship lighter. In verse 13 we see, it tells us that instead of throwing Jonah into the sea, the men started to do their best to row back to shore. But the sea grew wilder and wilder. So what we see here is that these men were trying to save themselves by their own strength and effort. But it was impossible for them to do this. Just so today we see people still trying to save themselves by their own effort. But we cannot. It is absolutely impossible. So they asked Jonah, "Who is responsible for making all this trouble for us? What kind of work do you do? Where do you come from?" They asked him, "What is your country and from which people are you?" And Jonah said, "I am a Hebrew, and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land." See, there are so many people with so many questions in our world right now. And just like Jonah on that boat, we have a great opportunity to share the truth with so many people about how great our God really is. Jonah's response to their question was this: "I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land." I want to encourage us. Let's not be afraid to testify about our great God during these stormy times. For He is the only one who can truly calm the storm and is able to save us. In verse 17, it says, "Now the Lord provided a great fish to swallow Jonah. And Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights." In Matthew 12:38 to verse 41, we see that the Pharisees come to Jesus and they say to Jesus, "Teacher, give us a sign from you." And Jesus said to them, "A wicked and adulterous generation asks for a sign, but none will be given to it except the sign of the prophet Jonah. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of a huge fish, so the Son of Man will be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. The men of Nineveh will stand up at the judgment with this generation and condemn it, for they repented at the preaching of Jonah. And now something greater than Jonah is here." So what we see, actually the story of Jonah and this account points forward to Jesus, who would come later on. And like Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly and the depths of this fish, so Jesus would go into the depths of the earth after He was crucified. What we see is as they throw Jonah overboard, the storm immediately stops and the sea becomes calm. And the anger of God is turned away. And it reminds me again, just so in the same way, when we put our faith in Jesus Christ and His work and death on the cross, and the fact that He was raised back to life, what we receive is the incredible peace of God. The fact that we can experience the peace of God and be at peace with God in the same way as they threw Jonah overboard. And then God sent this great fish to swallow him up. In the same way, Christ came and died on the cross. And when He died on the cross, the storm became calm. All around us right now in the world, there's a storm raging. People are in a desperate place. People are desperately looking for a vaccine for this virus. People are desperately looking for a cure to make the storm stop. But we have a God who, just like He made that sea calm in an instant when Jonah was thrown overboard, in an instant God will make the storm in your life calm when you put your faith and trust in Jesus Christ. Because like Jonah was sacrificed into the sea to turn away the anger of God, just so Jesus went to the cross to die, so that the anger and the wrath of God that was set against you and I will be turned away, and we will receive the righteousness and the love of God instead. What a wonderful story. What a wonderful picture it is, Jonah is to us, of that which Christ came to fulfill ultimately. My prayer is, may you experience this peace even in the midst of the storm, feeling like the ship is tearing apart. We have a God who is able to save us. May our trust continue to be in Him, and may you have a wonderful week going forward. God bless you.